Good afternoon, everyone. 4 o'clock straight up on the East Coast. It is indeed a Tuesday edition of On Cue coming at you live. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. I hope everyone had a wonderful Sports Monday. You're enjoying your Tuesday, the 26th of November, 2025, as we are creeping in to Thanksgiving, which means tomorrow on a Woosah Wednesday, we get to do our annual Jive Ass Turkey Awards. And that's where we get a list of about 10 participants and who becomes the biggest jive ass turkey of 2025. It's a tradition like none other. Don't forget, we are powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee, 20% off your first purchase. Check out the promo notes, BYP20. Also, Three Brooks Bourbon, Get Ready with Tea, Played Against Sports, and the Jersey Shore Breaks embarking on their second season of Pro Ball. And that'll tip off in March of 2026. So, with that being said, got an hour plus to play with. We'll be calling some hoops overseas later on this evening. Don't forget to get social with me as always at Rich Q on Q, X and IG, Rich Q on the mic on TikTok. Lloyd Vance will join me momentarily. Monday Night Football, a little bit of a snooze fest, if you will, but the 49ers got the win over the Carolina Panthers. You know, you start to look around this NFC, and it definitely is I guess I'm trying to think of the adjective, right, to kind of describe it. It's jumbled, right? It's kind of like top heavy with a couple teams, and obviously the Philadelphia Eagles coming off that loss in which they blew a 21-point lead to the Dallas Cowboys. There's been a lot of talk over the last several days. You know, where does the blame lie? Where does the blame lie with the offensive woes of the Philadelphia Eagles? And it's amazing when you go back to that post-game show and Jason Avant basically calling out Saquon Barkley. And now everyone's kind of coming out with their own, narrative thoughts on Saquon being that front runner when things go well. Here we go, 2,000 yards last year, leaping backwards over people, tall buildings in a single bound. All pro, you can argue MVP of the National Football League. Obviously, that distinction went to Josh Allen, and deservingly so. And then capping it off by winning a Super Bowl. And he was the catalyst. And all I'm hearing over the last day or two is, oh, man, you got to get Tank Bigsby involved because he had one friggin' carry for 8 yards and this, that, the other thing. Listen, the question you should be asking today, or the discussion that should be had today, is, does the fault of the lack of offense lie within the play calling, the execution, or the three biggest culprits, Hurts, Brown, and the all-world running back in Saquon Barkley? Those are really the questions. And with Saquon, you kind of take it to another direction. Is it just possible that Saquon Barkley has lost a little bit of a step? Look, you can be in a funk, right? You can be in a funk. That happens, man. That totally happens. And you can snap out of that funk in a New York second, in a New York minute. But the running back position in the NFL is such a demanding position. It is such a taxing position. It takes a toll on you. It really does. And you have a back that had a career year, a back that arguably stuck a franchise on his shoulders and said, let's go. Let's go. But I think there can be a sentiment. You can make the case that, yeah, he's lost a little bit of a step because he's reverting back to old habits. He's not hitting the hole with that precision. Now, if you want to also equate it to the offensive line, okay. But the numbers don't lie. I've never seen a running back have a drop off and dip after having a career year. A career year after. And now do pretty much nothing. And that's exactly what Saquon is doing. Michael chimes in, Broncos country, let's ride. Broncos looking good coming out of that AFC. But that's exactly what Barkley has done. So we're going to dive into that a little bit. You've got these Belichick reports floating around. You got Josina Anderson saying, hey, there's a well-established NFL head coach that has a long tenure with one team that maybe wants to change the scenery. Well, that can only mean really two coaches. Harbaugh and Tomlin, we'll dive into that as well. Like I said, listen, I mean, the NFL, week to week, it changes. Right now, for my money, the Rams to me are the most complete team in the NFL. They're the most balanced team in the NFL. They're the most dangerous team in the NFL. I implore you to give me another team that you think mano a mano can go against the Rams. I'm not talking about the Colts. I'm not talking about the Chiefs. I'm not talking about the Pats, the Eagles. I mean, I don't believe it. I don't. Not at this moment. Not at this moment. I just don't see it. I just don't see it at all. And then, as I said, there's been a lot of conversation regarding the offense of the Philadelphia Eagles. And sometimes teams just hit a rut. I mean, look at the 49ers last night. They couldn't get out of their own way. I mean, Brock Purdy played really bad football last night. And they won the game in spite of, it looked like 7, turnovers in the game, or how many total there were. And I know I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it felt there were 2 or 3 other times that Purdy should have been intercepted. I mean, it was a bad football game. It was a bad watch. Young had 2 interceptions. Purdy had 3. A couple fumbles that were lost. 20-9. The Steelers got the win. I got to see more from this Panthers team to start thinking they're legit. And the 49ers, they do what they do. They ran the friggin' football for $147 and right around 3.9, 4-point yards a carry. So Purdy, a little shaky, definitely cause for concerns. But more importantly, the 49ers got their 8th win of the season with 2 very winnable games. They're going to be a playoff team. They're going to get to 10 wins. They're going to be a playoff game. So, all right, some comments coming in already on Saquon. Has he lost a step? I'm not going to sit there and tell you that, he's 100% soft, but I have seen a different type of Saquon Barkley this season for the Philadelphia Eagles. And you can go through the list and you can look at all those: Chris Johnson, right? Priest Holmes, Larry Johnson, Derrick Henry. You can look at all those 2,000 yard, 1,900, 1,800 yard career years with some of these running backs. And then you look at the drop off the following season. And sometimes the drop off is a big drop off. All right, a lot of NFL to get into today. We'll mix in a little hot stove baseball, a little NBA. Your thoughts, as always, keep it locked in on this edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones here on this Tuesday as we're creeping into Thanksgiving. You got the slate of games on Thursday. You got Friday with the Eagles and the Bears. So the Eagles looking to rebound against a very upstart Bears team. Got some college football we can dive into. I think, with the coaching conversation we've been having and with these reports coming out with some of these long tenured head coaches that might want to change the scenery, as I mentioned, it really only leaves 1 or 2. And that's going to be Harbaugh. That's going to be Tomlin. We'll get into some of the hoodie conversation as well. All right, just cranking it up. 15 past 4 o'clock hour. Lloyd Vance going to pop on in a couple minutes, as he typically does. Vance's View, and we'll talk a little NFL with him. Don't forget, we're powered by our fresh roasted coffee, 3 Brooks Bourbon. Get ready with tea. And, of course, Jersey Shore breaks. Quick timeout. Come back on the other side. We'll punch up Lloyd. Go around the league with Lloyd. We'll ask him his thoughts on these head coaches, rumor mill, if you will, and what's going on with these offenses in the NFL. Don't forget, we're also on this 109 FM The Game. There's my YouTube channel at Rich Q on Q to keep it locked in to Tuesday. Quick timeout. We'll come back. All right, welcome back, everyone. 15 past 4 o'clock hour on the East Coast, Tuesday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones is here, our very good friend, Lloyd Vance, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football on 1029 FM The Game. Kind enough to join us. You catch him on Mondays. You also catch him co-hosting me with Back Your Play, and, of course, does a great job joining us on Q as well. What is going on, my friend?
Oh, doing well, Q. It's Thanksgiving and it's exciting time around National Football League. We got some good games to look forward to, and Yeah, good time of the year around the league.
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow I get to do my annual Jive Ass Turkey of the Year awards, 18 years in running, a tradition like none other. All right, so the Cowboys get the better of the Eagles. They're down 21 to nothing in this game. They win it 24-21 on a last second field goal. And I think there's a lot of that we can unpack with that game. And obviously, the conversation afterwards was post game live. Former Eagle wide receiver Jason Avant basically saying that Saquon Barkley is tiptoeing through the tulips, and he's satisfied, right? And that's never a good thing to hear when you got a former player saying it. Now, look, Avant doesn't have the resume. Let's just call it for what it is that Saquon has. But he did bring up an interesting point. Wide receivers were pretty. We're supposed to get out of bounds, right? And then he also brought up the point running backs, you're supposed to fight for yardage. I am seeing Saquon with some of his bad habits because he didn't trust the offensive line with the Giants. That's what I'm seeing. Now, you tell me what your eyes are seeing right now regarding Saquon Barkley.
Sure, Q. There's a couple of things at work here, and probably the biggest thing is he does not look the same as last year. We talked about it going into the season. He had over 450 touches after that great Super Bowl run, but he had a history of getting dinged up and not being 100% from his Giants career, and he kind of got past it last year. And this year, the Eagles' offensive line, they've only had one game where their same group has been together from game one. So they've had injuries up front, and the holes just aren't there as they were before. So yeah, factor that in. And I just think the Eagles are like, okay, they need to find some other way of moving the football. I think they're trying to pass it a little too much happy, and they're forgetting about the running game because they're not trusting Saquon and his 3.2 yards per carry the last three games.
Yeah, well, nor would you, right? I mean, the problem with Saquon is he's a little bit of a front runner, and I know nobody likes to talk about that, but he's a little bit of a front runner. When things are going well, things are going well. And look, AJ wasn't getting his touches, he wasn't getting his reps, he wasn't getting his snaps. But again, when you listen to the fact that he turns around and says, "I'm a big believer the run game starts with me and ends with me." I mean, hey man, you're in a funk. And I'm not going to suggest that Tank Bigsby, with one carry for 8 yards is going to be the answer. But I just, for the life of me, I've never seen the drop off. It's almost like Carson Wentz, who was a potential MVP candidate. And then obviously he had, with the injuries, which derailed him, and his production just went down big time, and he turned into a journeyman back. I'm just quarterback. I'm just talking about, again, just the drop off. I mean, do we blame it all on the line, not trusting the line? Is it possible that Saquon Barkley has lost a step or two?
He could too, but the other big thing is the Eagles don't have that mentality that they had last year. Batulo's come in there as offense coordinator. They're trying to sit on leads by throwing the football. I'm looking at stats now from the game. They ran the ball only 18 times for 63 yards, and they had the lead. So that's only 3.5 yards per carry. Where conversely, Dallas, who's playing from behind, 31 rushes for 125, 4 yards per carry. And they knew that they had to establish the run to get that play action and drive it down the field to CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, which they did. And the Eagles, they're trying to throw the football too much. And then Saquon, yes, I think he's beat up. You saw that on that fumble on that reception. He goes down and he kind of was bracing for the physicality of the hit. And then next thing you know, he puts the ball on the ground. His first fumble in a long time. But every season's different. And once again, the Eagles are the hunted. And he got all the fruits, last year. He's on all the commercials. He's on the cover of Madden. Maybe it was just like, all right, too much too soon. And it was a magical season. He got the extension. And he's just not the same player, Q.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I start you're starting to hear some things and some clamor within the locker room about the offense. Players are getting a little frustrated. Players are getting annoyed, right? I mean, obviously, you've got the Nick Sirianni who's basically denying that this team is conservative on offense. But again, explain this to me. You're 3rd and 2 late in the game. You don't want your quarterback dropping back to pass and taking a sack. That's where you should have your running back in the game. And for me, it just doesn't make sense at all that he's just not getting the touches when he needs the touches. Now, I can blame it on Petula. I can blame it on Sirianni. I can blame it on the offensive line. Um, I don't know. And I also think ultimately, you know this as well as I do. When you have problems with the offense and gear, it does change up the pass protection, the run blocking. Guys are missing their assignments. Guys are not playing gap discipline. So I think at this moment, I brought it up, I think, a month ago about the Eagles offense. And all I was told is relax, relax, they're going to be fine. I don't really believe they're going to be fine, to be quite honest with you. And I just, you just start to hear things that the players they're getting annoyed and they're getting aggravated.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with this team, and you and I talked so much over the years. The big thing is 2023 starts. You start thinking about that, where they had the end of the season swoon, and you saw all the disconnect come to a head in that playoff loss to Tampa Bay, and you're just wondering, can this team turn this thing around? They've won so many close games, but
Yep.
it's a win. But and now there's locker room stuff where player only meetings and a lot of infighting. It's just crazy how last year they're toast to the National Football League, and now everything's kind of changed. And it's on Sirianni. He has that smugness about him that he is in that ilk of upper echelon coaches, and he needs to control this locker room. And it was indicative in the game, Q. They had 14 penalties in the game, and you just see them. Their mentality has changed. They have that kind of glide about themselves. They need to make some adjustments. And yes, okay, you're 8-3, and you're currently ahead of Dallas, who's 5-1. But it could all fall apart real quick. So yeah, if the playoffs started today, they'd be the number 2 seed out of the NFC. So they'd have to play, that extra game. They would not have the bye. And their upcoming schedule, we're really going to see about the Eagles. Chicago at the Chargers. They have Vegas at Washington, at Buffalo, Washington to finish the season. So they got to pick it up because the Rams are looking good.
Rams are looking real good. I think they're legit. What does it say about the Dallas Cowboys with that win? I mean, that could be a season altering, defining win for this team. Maybe it galvanizes them. Maybe they figure out a way to sneak into the playoffs. I mean, listen, you got a lot of teams that have already won 7, 8, 9 games, so it's a little top heavy in that regard. But give Dallas their due. In years past, that's a game they don't win.
Yes, Q. Let's face it, going into the bye, they lost to Arizona, and everybody's like, all right, maybe their season's over. And they had not had that, key victory to hang their season on. And you see Quentin Williams and some of these veterans they brought in kind of gelling. They're getting guys back from injuries. Their offense is clicking on all cylinders in terms of running the football and then hitting the big plays down the field. And their defense as well. So good win for them. But Kansas City is going to be tough on Thanksgiving. And then they're at Detroit, they have Minnesota, Chargers, at Washington, at the Giants. So that tie may help in some of the tiebreakers, but the Niners are in the 7th spot at 7-4. So they have some work to do with the Cowboys.
Giants pull another one late. Jameis Winston, you love watching him play. I thought he played brilliantly. But again, Mike Kafka, late in the game, you're up by 3, take the points, have the Lions try to go the length of the field for 7. They chose not to do it. I don't have a problem so much with the decision. Again, it goes into play calling. The second down, Theo Johnson just lost his route and slipped. It happens. But now in hindsight, I'm thinking to myself, you haven't won a lot of games on the road, take the points, a little more, force the issue with Detroit. He's not the answer, right? He's just not the answer. Mike Kafka. I think we know that. But, what happens after that blown loss? They turn around, they fire defensive coordinator Shane Bowen, which they should have done against the Denver Broncos. Do you look at this Giants team and say there's some talent, they don't know how to win, or no, they're just not a good football team?
But they do have some talent, but now they're 2-10, and the record says who they are. But they're a scrappy bunch, And Jameis Winston, for all his craziness and faults, he went in there and he galvanized his team. He had them playing, and it looked like they were going to win that game for a good portion of it. Obviously, they had trouble stopping Jahmyr Gibbs, who was just unstoppable in this game, 264 yards from scrimmage, 3 TDs with the closer. But yeah, Kafka, you would think as an interim, he has nothing to lose. Why not try to set his team up, put him in a better position? Winston had them on the doorstep. And let's not forget Wandale Robinson. He's playing extremely well for them at the receiver position. So they do have some pieces. It'll be interesting going into next season. Do they go with a offensive minded guy or a defensive coach coming in the door?
I know Purdy's been banged up. He's been a little inconsistent, a little rust here and there, but last night was a bad watch. You had the three turnovers, couple fumbles. Bryce Young turned the football over. Carolina had every opportunity to win that game. The 49ers able to run the ball effectively. How about your level of concern right now? 49ers, with their next couple wins, they're going to win 10 games. They got a cakewalk, if you will, coming up. But what do you look at with the 49ers, like your level of concern for Brock Purdy in that offense?
Yeah, it always was. We knew that the defense, Q, had their issues because they had so many injuries, and Robert Salah was holding everything together with guys like Mustafa in the back. But the offense had already done a nice job. I think when you look at them, the receivers just still are not making a lot of plays for them. And now you have Brock Purdy kind of forcing the passes to Kittle, who's his favorite guy, and Pearsall, he's so banged up. You wonder, are they going to get him involved in the mix? Now, to their, positive for them is Christian McCaffrey. He's just playing at an all-world level, 81 receptions to lead anybody, receivers, everybody in the National Football League. He will probably have 1,000 as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah, I started to I put up his numbers. Let's just do it while I have you on the air. So now let me give you the numbers. He's going to have he might have 1,000 yards receiving.
Correct.
And 1,000 yards rushing, as you just alluded to. Sorry,
yeah, only the second time in National Football League he was able to do it. They have that late bye too, Q. So I think that's going to help them. So they have the bye in 2 weeks after a game with the Cleveland Browns.
Well, I bring it up. Does he start jumping the MVP conversation? I mean, I think Stafford is running away with it, but 1,000-yard receiving and rushing, we're talking Roger Craigish.
Yeah, I'd have to put him in a conversation. Obviously, we know it's a quarterback award, so it may be him against Taylor for the Offensive Player of the Year award. But yeah, I do agree with you that Stafford right now is playing at such a high level. He's so efficient at the quarterback position. No one saw this coming at age 37 and that bad back. So I think he's the leader in the clubhouse. And Drake May, the Patriots keep stacking W's. He's in the mix as well.
Yes, this is true. It looks like the Bills, I'm trying to get confirmation on this. They are or going to sign Brandon Cooks. Now, again, they've got issues on the defensive side of the football. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, that report. Looks like a couple guys, NFL guys, are tweeting it out. This just happened 10 minutes ago. Ari Moreau, Bills are signing Brandon Cooks. Buffalo's got some issues. I think the Colts maybe showed that they just are not ready just yet. We'll get into Buffalo in a moment, but the Colts lose it to Kansas City 23-20. That was a game you and I differed on BYP. I thought Kansas City got the benefit of a Bush League roughing the passer penalty. But at the end of the day, it's Kansas City and Kansas City. Mahomes, Kelsey, Reed, you called it. I was off on that one. It's not a Monday, but I'll man up anyway. My Colts are not ready for prime time. But did the Chiefs salvage their season?
They could have too, not ready to bury him just yet. But when it was 20-9, it was not looking good for them. And
Right.
Mahomes was missing some passes, and yet Rashee Rice dropping some passes there. They had an injury on the offensive line to Trey Smith, their all pro guy, and yeah, you're starting to say, okay, this is slipping away from them. But they were able to stop Taylor. They held him to under 60 yards rushing, and then Jalen Jones. Let's face it. He's still not scaring anybody in terms of driving the football down the field. He has Warren. We talked about Taylor and Pittman and other receivers, but he's got to make some plays. And the Chiefs did just enough, and there was some help from the referees here and there, but did just enough. And 5 Butker field goals gets it done.
Yeah, I still think they are a flawed team. I really do. Now, you talk about some of these teams that have to make a good impression. Seattle did what they had to do. Green Bay did what they had to do. The Patriots, I think that was a tough game against Cincinnati, but I'm going Chicago, the Eagles' next opponent. We talked a lot about Caleb Williams during Back Your Play and last week and about the progressions of a young quarterback. And I still maintain the reason that this kid is performing at a very high level right now is he's not taking a lot of sacks. He was sacked almost 70 times last year in 17 games. He's only been sacked 17 times in 11 games. They're running the football. The offensive line is keeping him upright. He's got a very good coordinator slash head coach, right?
Correct.
In Ben Johnson, and the Bears are a legit threat. I really believe that. I think if when they get in, if they win the NFC North, they're going to be a pain in the ass opponent for someone.
Well, Q, I wasn't buying a lot of stock in Caleb Williams because coming into the season, but you got to start saying, okay, Ben Johnson has come in there, he solidified the situation, brought the right playbook to help Caleb Williams. They have that running game with Kyle Malonge and Swift is in there as well, and then they have some good receivers. I think a big thing is they have two good tight ends in Loveland now, really stepping up, Komet, so they can beat you a variety of ways. And that offensive line, you pointed out that they've done a nice job rebuilding that. Ryan Poles, a guy who's on the hot seat in the general manager's position, brought in Tooney and a bunch of guys, and Williams is feeling a lot more comfortable in the pocket, and he's getting the ball out of his hands a lot quicker. So making a lot of plays. This is a statement game for both teams. Coming to Philadelphia, tough place to play, national spotlight on Black Friday, and really interested in this game. I think the defense is kind of unsung for them. Their defense is doing a nice job. They have Dennis Allen over there as a defensive coordinator coming from the Saints last year, and Brisker and the rest of those guys are making some plays.
It is a show me kind of game, right? I mean, the Bears are going on the road, and they're going to be probably about a 6.5, 7 point dog in this game. Let's overreact, underreact. Shador Sanders. I mean, look, he had the little hitch play, go 70 something odd yards, wonderful. Made a nice throw down the sideline, and everyone's going to nitpick every single time the kid drops back to pass. But rookie on the road, tough opponent in the regards that you're a rookie, right? I mean, think about it. Let's kind of keep it in perspective. We know the Raiders are not a good team, but you're walking into a hostile environment, which is never a good thing. And more importantly, the kid got the win. Stefanski, I think, is so stubborn. He finally decides, let's just roll with him going forward. That's what they are going to do. But, what was your takeaway with Sanders?
Yes, I thought, some good, some bad. But 11 of 20 in the game. He did have a touchdown. He did have an interception. That long throw they made to Bond was a pro-type throw, and you saw him, okay, he had some patience in the pocket, was able to drive it down the field. And he was supported, though, Q. Sampson, that was a big play. He dumps it off, and the guy takes to the house over 50 yards. That speedy back there. And then defensively, that's what the Browns' calling card. I mean, they were all over. I think they sacked Geno Smith 10 times in this game. Myles Garrett had 3 of those sacks, and Shador's doing a nice job. So we thought he needed to get his opportunity because, let's face it, Dylan Gabriel, he's not a frontline quarterback in National Football League. So they're seeing what Shador Sanders can do. Big game against the Niners this week, and giving a little hope to a franchise that thought the season was lost.
Did you see the end of the Jacksonville, Arizona game? Like, what the hell is that wide receiver dicking around in the football? That play 35 seconds against the line of scrimmage, Arizona. That's management.
Yeah, the Cardinals are a mess, and Jonathan Gannon, he was a coach we thought was going to be in a hot seat going into the season, and they have just imploded. And they have no running game. Wilson has been a nice story coming in, having a couple big games, stepping up from Marvin Harrison Jr. And Brisket, Joby Briquette, is not afraid to drive the football down the field. But yeah, the Jaguars hung in there. This was one of those games I was like, oh, the Jaguars are going to blow it. And Trevor Lawrence, he's kind of shaky, but they're finding ways to win games. And they did get a good game from Josh Hines Allen on defense, and Arizona, they're just imploding. So a lot of changes, I think, coming there in the offseason.
Rams best team in the NFL right now.
Yeah, Q, they're just showing that consistency. I mean, they just dominated the Bucks 31-7 at the half. This game was over. And you have Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, they're able to run the football effectively. And their defense with Fisk and Verse, they can challenge anybody. So Chris Schul's doing a nice job on that side of the ball. And there's also whispers that Aaron Donald may even be coming back for them.
Yep. Hear me out on this. Is Matthew Stafford having the greatest season as a quarterback if he throws for over 4,000 yards and finishes with 40 something odd touchdowns and just 2 picks? Like, where do we put that in kind of like the pantheon of great quarterbacking play, all time? Just to put it in perspective, would you say that Tom Brady's 2007 was arguably statistically one of the greatest years of a quarterback ever?
Yeah, that's up there. And you know what? I'd have to put this at a second act type season. And it was Peyton Manning coming over from the Colts to the Denver Broncos, where he set that record for touchdown passes at 55. He was just pinpoint coming in there, full control of the offense, and even at an advanced age, still getting it done. And I think that's what you're seeing from Stafford. As long as that offensive line with Jackson and those rest of the guys up front, if they keep him clean in the pockets there, he's going to make some plays, and he's protecting the football. And they have so many weapons. Not a lot of people aren't even talking about their tight ends. They can run a variety of formations. And McVay, he's a mad genius in terms of offense. He's going to use motion. He's going to use chips. He's going to do a lot of different things.
So 2013 Denver, 13-3, 68 completion percentage, 5,400 yards, 55 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. But what happened with that team?
And it didn't end well against Seattle Seahawks in the Super Bowl.
Now Tom Brady, 2007, 68 completion percentage, undefeated, 4,800 yards, 50 touchdowns, 8 picks. What happened to that team?
Well, you and I know well. I can still remember you and I analyzing that game, sitting in the studio, and I was like, dude, the Giants got no chance. I know they kept it close in the regular season, but they got it done against
to
Brady
this day, I still remember cocky and arrogant friggin' Jaworski coming on the air and saying, good luck on Sunday. And I said, when I win, come back on. And he chuckled. He still hasn't come back on. I guess the point is, Stafford, the numbers are just ridiculous, right? And so efficient. His rating is just absurd. It's like a perfect quarterback rating. He'll take that second Super Bowl. He's already a Hall of Famer. You mentioned if Aaron Donald comes back. Like, if there's a flaw with the Rams right now, what would it be?
Well, that's a good one. It was their kicking game, to be honest with you. That's why they lost to the Philadelphia Eagles, And after that, they changed their blocking scheme on their special teams. They brought in a new long snapper, and they have a new kicker, Cardi. They put him on the bench, and they have this new guy, Mevis, that's come in. He made his first field goal, and he seems solidified that position. But there's really not a lot of weaknesses. They do have some injuries on defense, but they have so many other guys like Landman stepping up, and they're a dangerous team. So when you look at their upcoming schedule, at Carolina, at Arizona, Detroit, at Seahawks, which is going to be a good game, at Atlanta, Arizona, you don't see many games they may lose there.
There's issues with Atlanta and Penix. There's certainly issues in Minnesota with McCarthy, J.J. McCarthy. I know we've kind of gone down this rabbit hole before, but you think there's a little bit of buyer's remorse not re-signing Sam Bradford in Minnesota?
Yeah, Sam Darnold. Yeah, I definitely.
Oh my God, what? That's the third time I don't know why in the world I have Sam Bradford on my mind of late. I have maybe because he's a Hall of Fame quarterback when it comes to his agent. But yes, Sammy Darnold.
And he'll probably call you and say, "Why would you call me that guy? That guy's a bum." But Darnold's playing. He's still hanging in there with Seahawks. And yes, they probably should have brought him back. This situation, McCarthy is coming to a head. He 10th overall pick last year. He just played awful, and now he's in concussion protocol, and they have Max Brosmer, a rookie coming over from the University of Minnesota, who's probably going to start against Seattle this week. That's probably going to be an ugly situation. So, the Vikings, buyer's remorse. They're 4-7. Probably their season's over.
Lloyd Van's kind enough to join us this edition of On Cue. We're powered by our good friends over at Played against Wirtz. Don't forget, November 28th, Black Friday, 10 to 70% off all new items in store. Shop Incredible Doorbusters. Enter to win 4 new gear raffles. Played against Sports. The first 10 customers will receive a free $25 gift card. Is Pete Carroll one and done with the Raiders?
Q, it's looking more and more like that. And we know, Mark Davis, he's a lot like his father, Al. He doesn't have a lot of patience. And you have Tom Brady there as that minority owner, and he's probably in his ear saying enough's enough. They're just a dumpster fire, and you saw against Cleveland, they just had no chance in terms of their blocking scheme. Geno Smith, he's looked like he's regressed as well. And Gentry's really the only thing other than Max Crosby on that team and Brock Bowers. So, yeah, I think this may be a situation where they step away from him.
There are a couple of reports out there that a long tenured head coach, quote, might be looking for a change of scenery. Now, I should have stood pat on that because I actually named 2 of them. I said Tomlin, Harbaugh. I failed to bring up Andy Reid.
Andy Reid looking for what, moving? You mean like
No,
moving
no,
to a
no.
new
What I'm
challenge?
saying is, I don't know if you saw. Well, let me be a little more descriptive for you
Okay.
because I am kind of only giving you the half the story, so to speak. I think it was Josina Anderson tweeted out that, according to sources, a long tenured NFL head coach will be looking for a change of scenery. So that
Okay.
only leaves 3, right? Tomlin,
Interesting.
um,
Correct.
Reed, and then Harbaugh.
Could be, these guys, especially Tomlin, he's been there a long time. They have not won a playoff game since 2015, 2016. As you know, I know guys that worked in that organization, and usually it's not the Rooney way to step away, but the team is just stale, Q, and they're stuck in neutral. Maybe it may be Tomlin. He's definitely on the hot seat if this team continues falling the way they have. And I think Harbaugh's kind of righted the ship there, and Bisciotti there, the owner, and Dick Cass, the president. They really like what he's done with the Ravens over here. So I don't think it's him. Obviously, Andy Reid, he's entrenched with the Hunt family. I don't think it would be him. So out of those 3 guys, I would say the chips are kind of leaning towards, you know, Mike Tomlin. But maybe it's another coach like LaFleur. He could be on the hot seat if Green Bay underachieves. Raheem Morris has only been there a little while with the Falcons. I would put him on the hot seat as well. So, yeah, we know every year about 7 new coaches are coming into the National Football League.
Michael wants to chime in. Vance Lloyd, are you rolling with the Broncos or New England for the number 1 seed in the AFC? Ooh,
Ooh,
a little dicey on a Tuesday.
yeah, it's interesting because Denver's on a bye this week, and their schedule is pretty nice. At Washington, at the Vegas, Green Bay, Jacksonville, at Kansas City is going to show us a lot about them. Chargers. If I had to go between the 2 of them, I think it's going to be New England. They're 10-2 right now. Schedule's real nice for them. Giants by Buffalo, which is a grudge match at Baltimore, but then they have the Jets and Miami.
Kevin in North Jersey chimes in. Q, you're missing like 3 other coaches: McDermott, McVay, Shanahan, which is actually true. LaFleur, Taylor back in 2019. So again, according to Anderson, league sources are eyeing 5 more teams to have openings at head coach in addition to the Giants and the Titans. Yeah, but again, we kind of we already know that, right? I'm just curious about more of the longest tenured head coaches. Where the hell does Josina Anderson spit or nonsense? I just saw it online, man. I'm just, hey, whoa, don't shoot the messenger. I mean, let's, if we were going by what you and I have talked about now for the last, I don't know, month, right? So Aaron Glenn, I still think might be one and done. So we're going to hold off. Let's say the Buffalo Bills get bounced in the wild card. McDermott could be out. So we'll say 1. You mentioned Tomlin potentially 2. Stefanski 3. I think Taylor gets a pass because of the injury again. Tennessee needs a coach. That's 4. Carroll with the Raiders 5. The Giants 6. Atlanta 7. Am I missing?
There's so
Arizona?
Todd Bowles, maybe. Todd Bowles could be on the hot seat there. This injury of Baker Mayfield may be a lot for them to overcome.
That's a good
They
point.
might kind of limp home, and yeah, I always had Gannon on that list. He was like one of my number one coaches coming into the season. I just thought it was make or break for him, and Arizona's limping home, so I would include him on the. I think
Yeah,
he's already gone.
by the way, Ball's a very good defensive coordinator, Elizabeth, New Jersey guy, horrible head coach. Let's just be honest. And he put Baker back out there for that long Hail Mary at halftime when he took the sack. Now, by the way, we really haven't even talked about that. Listen, if Tampa Bay winds up 8 or 9 or worse and loses the NFC South to say Carolina, I think he might be done. I really do. I mean, they could have fired him and replaced him with Cohen, but again, you're talking about the leadership, and here we go. But that injury to Baker Mayfield is a doozy. He can play through it and probably take a couple of shots here and there. But yeah, man. You send him back out there for that play, and he takes another hit. That's not good.
Yeah, they've had success there the last couple of years. Getting to the playoffs, but it's just kind of fallen apart in terms of injuries, and after a while, it's like, all right, how far is this guy going to take them? And you talk about, Cohen, who was kind of one of the golden coaches out there. He's with Jacksonville now, and they just wonder about, okay, Bowles' calling card's always been his defense, and his defense they've been kind of shoddy. Everybody's going to say injuries, but they have a lot of age on that unit, and he's just not getting home the way he needs to. So yeah, I definitely think he's on the hot seat with the Glazer family there.
Game balls and Lackey. I mean, you're not going to give it to a losing team. Did the quarterback get a game ball?
Is not a quarterback.
I'm going to go outside the box. You're going to go special teams?
No, I didn't. And Kevin on my show last night did give it to quarterback Matthew Stafford, and he is deserving to get a shout out. But I gave it to Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, he was just incredible for the Lions, and it's crazy because the week before against the Eagles, he really didn't do a lot. But on that Detroit fast track, 15 rushes, 219, 2 touchdowns, and then he had a receiving touchdown as well, and that game breaker in overtime, 69 yards. So he
Yeah,
was
where
incredible. I
where
gave it to
where
him.
Dexter Lawrence wasn't on the field. So, I mean, I didn't even get to take a shot at the game ball, but that's okay.
Oh,
Lackey,
sorry.
I feel like you picked on a quarterback.
I did.
Is it like a journeyman? Because I always feel when you pick on the backup, that's never nice.
I'll say
I'm gonna
soon to be journeyman. I'll give you a little hint.
soon to be
Well,
journeyman.
his career arc is it's looking like I was just going to give it away. Jamarcus Russell has been mentioned in the same breath with this quarterback recently.
I mean, you didn't give it to Cousins, no. Geno Smith, no.
No.
Not Brissett, not Rudolph.
JJ McCarthy, man.
Oh, Minnesota. Yeah, he stinks, by the way.
Terrible. I mean, he is just awful.
Yeah, let me ask you something before we get to the stats.
Yeah.
I believe, that kid was basically, that was all Harbaugh. I mean, let's call it for what it is, right? Harbaugh really made a push for this kid. And again, they could have kept Daniel Jones. Did he even crack 100 yards the other day?
No, he didn't. And you're right about Harbaugh. He set him up in terms of looking well in college. He had Quorum, he had Edwards, he had pros all over the offense when Michigan won that national title. But he was not throwing the ball more than 20 times a game, and he's just very deficient in terms of seeing the field, and he's just not making plays. Now they're going to bail him out. O'Connell is by putting him in concussion protocol, but he's just not a quality quarterback, and maybe the kid can pull it together. I mentioned Jamarcus Russell, who's a total bust, but that's the kind of breath and conversation they're putting with J.J. McCarthy. Can he overcome this? I know he has only had 6 starts and so, but 12 of 19, 87 yards, 2 interceptions, sacked 5 times in this game, and Minnesota 1 for 9 on third downs, 0 for 1 on fourth down. So he's not scaring anybody. We'll see what this other undrafted free agent rookie can do, but I think it's going to get ugly this week against Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, these are games, like I said, you start to really distance yourself. It's all about the separation at this point of the season. Is there a, trying to think, is there a team right now that in August you would say X, Y, and Z, and in November you would come back and say, Q, I told you this is exactly what was going to happen with this team?
Well, there's a couple teams where I'm like, okay, I thought that New England would be better, Q, but I did not think they would run
This
away with the division like they've done. I mean, it's crazy. They're 10-2. Uh, they played above their heads, and you're seeing that Mike Vrabel has brought that disciplined style in there. It's brought veteran guys in there, like Milton Williams, Robert Spillane, and then offensively, Drake May is in total control of that offense. You'd like to see them have another wide receiver, another playmaker other than Hunter Henry at the tight end position, but definitely they're a team that's lived up to expectations. Disappointment, I'll go with the Washington Commanders. And, Q, we all I thought, okay, they're going to challenge the Eagles. No one's repeating that division 20 years. I said it over and over again, but it looks like it's going to happen. And it's definitely not Washington that's going to challenge them this season. They need to get younger in terms of their defense. It's going to be interesting. Do they bring back Jaden Daniels from this elbow injury and how important that is to get him on the field? I say shut him down and save him for next season.
I'm going to give you a stat, and I'm going to test you. 43, 103, and 1. And I'm going to set it up for you. It was a photo that was taken many years ago.
I did. Yeah, I remember you and I talking about it. And Sterling Shepard is still in the National Football League playing for the Buccaneers. And I still remember that boat trip. Odell Beckham, who's done a suspension and is looking for a job around National Football League.
I was
they
pissed.
They go on vacation and get ready for the season.
The playoff game against Green Bay.
Yeah, for the postseason, and it was downhill from there with the Giants. A myriad of coaches,
all
and
drops,
just a mess.
By the way. I mean, Eli threw for close to 300 yards. All drops. 3 drops by Beckham, 1 drop by Shepard. I mean, the Beckham drops were unbelievable. 43, 103, and 1 since the friggin' boat trip. I mean, my God. That's disgusting. That's horrible football.
And Mara, he's got to figure this thing out. He's probably Shane. I couldn't believe they brought him back, and now they got rid of Bowen. They got rid of Dayball. Who's left? They got to rebuild this thing. At least they have Jackson Dart and Malik Neighbors and some pieces on that defense to work with.
Well, I always tell you, they're always eliminated by Halloween. All right, so they were eliminated by almost Thanksgiving. I don't really know if that does me any good. So, all right, brother. So you got TGA Thursday games. I know tomorrow you're going to be busy. We'll do a quick little tidbit. I know we'll bang out back your play this week as well, but Pack, Lions, Chiefs, Cowboys, Cincy, Ravens, Bears, Eagles. Lions laying 2.5. Casey getting 3 on the road, laying 3 on the road. Baltimore big 7, and they're running away. I mean, you just get the feeling they're going to win their 11, 12 games and go on this run. And then you got the Bears and the Eagles. That's not a bad little slate. 4 games in 2 days by the NFL.
Yeah, these are some great matchups, Q, and I'm really looking forward to that NFC North game. I think the Lions, right now, playoff started, they'd be out of it. They really want to show the Packers who've been kind of inconsistent who the kings of that division. So I'm looking for that game. And as well, your Chiefs, I want to see if they're able to keep it going. And the Cowboys, are they for real? Because this is a big test for them.
By the way, that total, along with Cincy and the Ravens, the highest Thursday and Friday, 52.5. The Eagles right now laying 7, 44. 1.5. All right, brother. I know we're going to bang out BYP this week. Always appreciate you. Don't forget, you can catch Lloyd every Monday, 8 to 9 on SR 1029 FM. The game. Are you going to be doing anything pre or post with the Eagles game on Friday?
Maybe I'll do some spots here and there with the on the network. We'll see, but it's going to be interesting. I'll probably sit back and just take my notes and see if the Eagles can overcome the situation. Patullo on the hot seat, and then Sirianni, he's got to clean this thing up in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that game. What time is that game? 3 o'clock?
That's 3 o'clock on Prime.
Let's say, argument's sake, gets done by 6. I don't know. Depending if it's a debacle, we might have to do a little emergency Q cut edition of On Q. So we'll play it by ear. But Lloyd and I will drop another edition of BYP. Always appreciate you jumping on board, brother. You have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I know I say it every year and I always butcher it, but don't what is it? The tryptophan, whatever the hell that is.
Yeah, don't not too much turkey, but
Right.
I'm definitely going to load up on the sides, man. Macaroni, cheese, all the good stuff. Sweet potato pie. Enjoy it, man.
And to be honest, too, because it's Thanksgiving, you have to watch Trading Places, Coming to America, and Die Hard.
Well,
you got to squeeze them in early before.
There's a lot of good football. Maybe you can fit it in.
All
Probably
right.
during those halftime shows that are so awful. I don't even know why they do that.
All right, brother. Always appreciate you, man.
All right, Q.
All right, there you have it, my guy. Lloyd Vance, kind enough jumping on for a couple moments. Don't forget, catch him every Monday night, 8 to 9. You can catch him during BYP. And by the way, we have a couple updates for you. On Q is now on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, as well as Odyssey. And we got some news that we'll be sharing with you probably in another week or so. A couple more platforms. We'll drop a new edition of BYP, which now can also be heard on Channel 48, WWON, our other hoops-centric show on Dimes, Overseas Dimes, is actually heard on the YouTube channel, Channel 82 in Bermuda, as well as Channel 48. They just picked it up. And I know Angel and I are working on a little bit of a collab as well. So 5 o'clock straight up. We'll wrap it up. Don't forget, we're back in the saddle tomorrow for a Woosah Wednesday. We got to call hoops tonight. That's why we wanted to get on a little earlier today and at least try to squeeze in an hour with you guys. A lot more NFL talk to dive into tomorrow. We'll start to preview all the Thanksgiving Day games. Of course, the Black Friday game, the Eagles and the Chicago Bears. A little more of this head coaching carousel and movement. We'll talk a little more Hall of Fame, some news and notes on that. Hot stove baseball. We dropped a good NBA segment myself and Jonathan Marshall did. That's up on the YouTube channel. Talked a little bit about Detroit Pistons having a real good start to the season, OKC on a mission, the youth movement, that is the Philadelphia 76ers. And if the window is closing for the Cleveland Cavs coming out of the Eastern Conference. So that's also part of our hoop segment on Q. As always, we're powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Get ready with tea, 3 Brooks Bourbon. And of course, Play It Again Sports. 2 locations. You already heard me mention it. They got that unbelievable Black Friday sale. Check them out online. Follow them on Facebook for more details. Everyone have a wonderful Sports Tuesday. Back in the saddle on a Woosah Wednesday edition of On Cue, plus our Jive Ass Turkey of the Year Awards, a tradition like none other. So you got it's always a very fun time. You got a very light night in the association. 3 games tonight: Atlanta, the Wizards, Magic, 76ers, Clips, and the Lakers. And then you have a pretty much a nice little deep schedule of NBA tomorrow with the NBA Cup. So we'll dive into that a little more tomorrow, and we'll start to bring back some of the picks and the plays. Everyone have a good Sports Tuesday. Enjoy it. As always, be safe, be sound. Appreciate Lloyd Vance checking in for us for a couple moments. We will be back in the saddle tomorrow. As always, I'm Rich Quinones. Appreciate you guys tuning into this edition of On Q. And as always, hasta luego, mi día.